the National Program Team, and I will be opening up the call for today. I would like to remind everyone that we do have your phone lines open. Therefore, if you are not speaking, please mute your line by clicking on the microphone next to your name. Before we begin, I would like to read the following HRAT disclaimer. Participation in this conference call is by express written invitation of HRAT only. Unauthorized participants and/or any party that assists unauthorized participants may be subject to substantial criminal and civil penalties. If you have not been invited to take part in this call, please disconnect at this time. And today it is my great pleasure to introduce our facilitator today, Ms. Tina Adams, RN. She is our clinical content lead at the Health Research and Educational Trust. She will be facilitating today's office hours. So now I'd like to turn the call over to Tina Adams.
Hi, Amy. Thank you so much. Can everyone hear me?
I can hear you.
Terrific. Wonderful. Thank you. I really appreciate it, and I'm so pleased that you're with us today. We're going to have a great conversation today for the ambulatory surgery office hours. We are moving in a direction that is a little more formalized for this call, and I just want to give you all a heads up at the beginning here. So, you know, historically our office hours have been pretty much just an opportunity for all of you to get on the line and ask us and one another questions about how you may have implemented things, or how is what is the next best step to take to address a barrier you're having perhaps, or maybe for you to tell us a success story on something you've been able to master in your facility. Moving forward, we want to take this opportunity on office hours to be a little more specific in discussing teamwork and communications per se. Obviously, on your content calls, you're talking about the checklist and utilization and optimization of the true essence of the checklist and what we really want the checklist to be about, not just, you know, check, 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 hitting those boxes, but instead making it a tool that the surgeon or the procedure person uses to engage everyone in the room and share the ownership of the patient's safety. In this opportunity on our office hours, we're going to talk about how to take that teamwork material and apply it to other things you're dealing with in your ambulatory surgery center. So in addition to improving teamwork and communications actually in the procedure room, I then want to take those teamwork and communication principles and apply them in the work you're doing outside of the operating room or outside of the procedure room. So for example, if you were going to assess and look over what your surgical site infections have been recently, if you've had any, and you wanted to spend a deeper dive on why your patients got those infections, this would be a great opportunity to utilize the team that you've created at your facility to do that work together. Anytime you're trying to solve a problem, the more heads you can put together, the better brainstorming you'll have, or the better insights you'll have as to potential causes for those never events that have occurred. And so I think it's really important that as we have all of us practice and implement the true essence of teamwork and communication skills, I want to move it out of the operating room where you've been using it and really exercising that muscle there. I want to take those same principles now and apply them to work that you may be doing in a more sort of 50,000 foot level about applying the team's knowledge to the problems that your data is just demonstrating that you're having, so your outcome data. I think it's really important that we take the skills you're learning and sort of spread them around to other tasks your facility is trying to accomplish. It's a great opportunity then to go ahead and practice those new skills. So the first thing I just want to cover is, of course, what is the definition of a team? And you see there the penguin, so you know that this is a team step team steps slide formally. So it's two or more people who interact dynamically, interdependently, and adaptively towards a common and valued goal, have specific roles or functions, and have a time-limited membership. And I think you would agree that probably all of you have been able to put together a team in your facility. We definitely know that changing culture and improving safety is not a one-man job. It's not something that you can do by yourself. You know, a team is never made up of one person. A team has got to be multiple people from your facility, and the best teams are actually those that have representation of all the different healthcare worker types. So they have surgeons, you have anesthesia, you're going to have all the different members represented on your team because their perception and their angle on a problem you may be trying to solve can be completely different than the nurse's perception or angle on why something may have occurred. It's really important to get everybody's input and to have the opportunity to hear from everybody as to what is their perception or their view of potential causes and solutions to the problem you're trying to repair. So, you know, we know that there's barriers to building a team, and especially in the ambulatory surgery environment. We understand that there are some time issues, there's workload issues, there's engagement issues. There can be lots and lots of different problems that can make your team's effectiveness really be challenging and be challenged. Sometimes it's personalities, sometimes it's communication styles. You know, this is the greatest opportunity that your team will have to sit down and discuss your team's values, what you're trying to accomplish, that you're all there for the patient. I'm sorry. Did somebody want to say something? Amy, was that you? Okay, maybe it was just something I heard on my line. Anyway, so there's a list of barriers, and I put that right up front because I do recognize that there will be barriers, and I want you to understand that this is a journey and a process. So you started at the beginning of the AHRQ safety program for ambulatory surgery centers, and, you know, it's like being on a journey. Step one is learning what you need to learn, and then step two is actually then applying some of those knowledge pieces that you've gained through the project. And I'm sure there's things on that slide that you recognize from your facility. So we're going to take a minute here and do a polling question. I'm very interested in having you take a minute to read the slide. Polling question number 1, which of these barriers can you or your facilities identify with? Check all that apply. The way that we're going to respond there, you see to the right of the slide, there should be now a polling question showing up there for you. I want you to go ahead and check all the answers, all the little blue boxes for barriers that you are dealing with at your facility that make it difficult for your team to meet, make it difficult for you to keep members on your team. Turnover is a big problem. So I'll just put those out there. Go ahead and fill it in. We'll give you a few seconds, minutes to do that.
And as Tina mentioned, please check all of those barriers that apply and make sure to hit that submit button so we can tally your response. We'll take a few more moments.
And let Amy tell us when most of you have gotten your choices made.
Sure. Okay, it looks like the results should be coming shortly.
Great, thank you, Amy.
Sure, and there we are.
Okay, so what we can see there is that everybody has a lot of all of them. You know, we can see that number G seems to be a high one with 27% and workload. Definitely, we've heard that, we understand that, and I don't think that there's easy answers to some of these barriers. And I don't anticipate that we're going to go do and make them all go away, right? They're hard. These are entrenched issues in healthcare for all teams, whether it be in a hospital, an ambulatory surgery center, a nursing home, whatever. Very similar findings in all those environments. I think that ambulatory surgery centers who have joined the AHRQ safety program are definitely early in their process of learning quality improvement and mastering some of those skills, and that is going to take time. It's like being in a new class and learning new materials. You have to have the time built into your calendars and schedules to allow you to have meetings, to teach each other pieces of this material and how it then applies in your culture, in your environment, with the doctors you deal with and the staff that you have to interface with. And it's going to be a little different in every place. We recognize that culture is local, and every single group's culture can be very different. And I'm certain that all of you have experienced, even within your facility, that certain teams can have very different cultures. So, for example, there might be a group, let's say it's the GI doctors that do all the scope procedures. They have one culture, and their culture may be their team that works in that procedure room. They have a very different way of working together than the orthopedic surgeon and what their team is like and what their culture is like. So there may be different points in time as you move around in your facility and work with different groups that you'll have to deal with very specific and individualized barriers. And there are ways to improve and to move forward over some of these barriers. And I really hope that today's call will give us an opportunity to share some of those great processes that you found to move past some of the barriers. And know that they kind of come and go over time. There will be competing priorities. There will be things that come to us. Ebola is a great example. Everybody's been having to deal with Ebola, and that is the priority. And so now other aspects of our day-to-day work had to take a lower priority. I want to take just a minute, and you have this opportunity. Oh, hang on a second. I want to go back. I forgot question number 2. Question number 2 at the bottom of that slide is, of those barriers that you've identified, what would you say is the most difficult one you are experiencing? So what's the one that has the greatest effect? What's the one that you think, gosh, if you could master this one problem, you'd really open things up and you'd really make things so much better? It is helpful when you're trying to problem solve that you take that opportunity to figure out what is the low-hanging fruit. What could you get the biggest bang for your buck if you put your attention to it? So you'll see there in the polling questions section to the right of your slide, which of the above barriers is the most difficult one you are experiencing at your facility. Go ahead and mark. And now we're asking for just one.
Okay, just take a few more moments and just make sure you do pick your most difficult barrier and hit submit for us. All right, Tina, looks like the responses are up.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that, Amy. And in this set, we see that, interestingly, defensiveness is something that popped up. I don't remember that being a very strong answer in the previous set of replies, so that's very interesting to me. And then lack of coordination, workload, and lack of information seem to be singularly certain ASCs are dealing with those as their greatest. But interesting, this defensiveness. We'll have to dive into that a little bit more through our conversation today. Thank you, Amy, for your help with those questions. This slide is to give you just a bit of experience working with the chat and the different features that are in our slide sets during, in the webinar during our presentations and time together. If you're not real familiar with the chat features, we just wanted to take an opportunity to show you what they are. You'll see that across the top there are 3 dark blue, navy blue lines, participants, chat, and polling. And you can choose the chat, select the chat there, and you'll be able to communicate back and forth with Amy and myself and others on the call. You can send a little message to everyone on the call or to just the those at AHRQ that are running the call. And I would like to strongly encourage you as we move forward to go ahead and open that chat window by clicking on that chat line up at the top right there. You'll see it. And then that will give you the ability to read and see what other people are chatting about during the call. And this is a great way for us to spend some time talking in real time about the issues that you're faced with. So we're going to talk just for a minute about the team approach to reducing infections. It's really, this is one of those sort of take the teamwork skills that you've been practicing in the operating room or the procedure room, and now let's pull them out of that environment and apply them now into a different problem that your facility may be trying to deal with. So it may be a deeper dive to look at your infections. It may be a deeper dive to look at educating patients for what they need to do after they're discharged. It may be preparing patients prior to their procedure and what patients can do and their families to prevent surgical site infections and the procedures that those patients will receive at your facility. It's important that we, again, focus on getting as many different voices at your team meetings as possible. We want the recruited members to have clear and valued, so I'm going to call it a mind meld. You're going to have everybody get on the same page as to what are the goals and what are the responsibilities of the team members, and how can you work together in the best way to have the kinds of successes and outputs that you're looking for. You might learn that as the team leader at your facility, as the facility lead, it may be in your best interest to make an approach, a thoughtful, prepared, not sales pitch exactly, but sort of a marketing pitch, I'd call it, to the individuals listed there in the bullet points. There will be different problems you may look at different times of the year. There may be different problems that you'll look at different times from one year to the next. So, for example, in the year 2014, you might set a goal as a team that you want to accomplish decreasing your surgical site infections, and you may work really hard on that this year and make some great progress, and then next year you might choose to work on something else. Or it sometimes happens where, like Ebola as an example, where suddenly something mushrooms up and becomes your new priority, even though you couldn't really see that on the horizon and know that it was coming. All of those folks on those bullet points will have an interesting and unique perspective to bring to the team. It is difficult. We recognize that having team meetings can be quite challenging. Is there anybody on the phone today, on phone line on the meeting? And again, you can use the chat if that's helpful to you, to go ahead and tell us how you have done recruiting for team members and what you might have found to be the hard nuts to crack, so to speak, those that are the most difficult to engage, the most challenging to get time on their calendar to meet with you or to attend a meeting or to review data or whatever you need from that individual.
And remember, all the lines are open, so feel free to go ahead and just chat with us. Very informal office hours.
So in clicking on that chat row, that little sort of royal blue line, opens up the bottom there. You'll see a choice, a drop-down box with choices of who you want your message to go to. You can type your message in the box and then just hit send, and we'll be able to see your input. So just for a practice one, let's just say everybody write into the text box there under the word that says, I hope yours says all panelists. Let's see, what are the other choices? If I click on the drop-down box, you'll see all attendees. How about we do that? Let's everybody click the drop-down box and hit all attendees, and then in the box, I want you to write something you did on a vacation that was extremely exhilarating or very scary, perhaps, something like you did a zip line or a bungee cord jump or hang gliding or skydiving or something like that. But let's just practice using the chat boxes. And then hit send once you've entered that activity that you did. And I see those coming in there. Great job, you guys. I see skydiving, rode in a helicopter, skywalk over the Grand Canyon. Woo, that's an exciting one. That makes me kind of have a little shiver, have a little fear response just reading it. Great. Well, that was a great moment to just hear practice in the chat boxes. And again, as you're on our webinars and there are slides being presented, you can always just pop into that chat box and make a comment or ask a question, and that's absolutely fine. Anybody have a bit of a story, and you're welcome to type it into the chat box if you'd like, or to just open your line and speak to us right out. Any of those people that are in that bulleted list that you've had a particular approach to that you found to be successful in engaging them in this work, helping them stay abreast of what the goals are and what the tasks are, learning about the time commitment that it will take for your ASC to be able to complete the expected responsibilities that you as the facility leader have. How about we try this? Answer in the text box to all attendees, answer below that in the box. How many of you, just say yes or no in your answer, how many of you have had to engage the anesthesiologist or CRNA at your facility to help you guys work on a safety concern for their part of the care of your patients? So airway, breathing, circulation. If they had an opportunity to interface with your anesthesiologist, and if you did, how did you do that? Did you meet with them privately in kind of an away room, an office location? Did you pick up the phone and call them? That kind of thing. I see some yeses there. Thanks, folks. Keep it coming. Do any of those bulleted people on those lists present a particularly great challenge? Pick the one of those there that is the hardest to engage. Let's say it that way. I'm seeing a lot of comments there. Thank you. I see scrub text. I do see met face-to-face with open communication and, yes, one-on-one meetings. And I do like that format, I have to be honest when I tell you that. I think that there's a certain amount of salesmanship that goes into being the nurse champion or the project champion for quality improvement work. And I think that as you know the different personalities of these folks in your facility, how you might approach them would definitely vary from category to category and person to person. I really like the private discussion comment there from Mark. Thank you, Mark. I agree completely, Alice, that the surgeons can be extremely difficult to get on their agenda, get on their calendar, and have them attend meetings. And I like to say, and this is just sort of something that we use in all of our projects at AHRQ, and that is if there's already a meeting that those groups attend, such as the surgeons or some of the others that you may find challenging. If there's already a standing meeting that's happening, such as a staff meeting as an example, you may be able to tag on your team's meeting to that meeting because they're already coming together anyway. And so, and you may be able to get your needs added to the agenda of that previously scheduled meeting that these groups are coming together for already. And we do use that technique in all of our projects at AHRQ, so I highly encourage you to think through what other meetings are happening and how could you tag team onto those meetings. If there's a meeting that the surgeons already attend, such as let's say it's M&M meeting, mortality and morbidity meetings, or other types of quality meetings that they already attend, maybe they meet with the owners at some point. Any of those kinds of opportunities where they've already been pulled together can give you an opportunity to jump in at that same meeting and get just even 10 or 15 minutes can help you get across your message and specifically ask those individuals for what would be doable, what would work best for them individually, and then go in that direction. Anybody have, besides the one-on-one and private discussions, has anybody used like calling a full team meeting at the end of the day or at the beginning of the day before the surgeries actually begin? Go ahead and put that in the chat box if you'd like. So as the slide says, our goal is that you can, number one, get multiple viewpoints on issues that you're trying to improve and sort of brainstorm with as many brains involved as possible, and that will give you the best outcomes. I do like here we see Mark saying that they have monthly open forum staff discussions. That's interesting. Open forum staff discussions. And so that's not a staff meeting, or is that part of a staff meeting, Mark? Amy, just to be sure, I just want to double check. Are the phone lines open, or are they muted and folks would have to unmute to speak?
Sure, all the phone lines are open, and so if anyone would like to just freely speak, please feel free. You can also use the chat, but all the lines are open, so we welcome you to chat with us.
Great, thank you, Amy. I just wanted to double check.
Sure.
So I see Mark says it's not part of just nursing staff meeting, which happens every Thursday. This is open once per month meeting. So interesting. I would love to hear more, Mark. Can you say how long those meetings, the open forum staff discussion meetings, have been happening in your facility? So it's once a month. And how did those come to be? Was that something an administrator started, or the nurse manager, director of nursing? I think that's fabulous. Obviously, giving people an opportunity to bring their concerns forward or to ask questions and get clarification can really improve relationships. So I think that's really the first step. We want all of the facility staff in your facility to begin to build those trusting relationships such that it's okay. You know, you could bring up anything and talk about difficult topics, and that would be okay as long as what was being discussed was, you know, focused on patient safety or process improvement. There should be no topic that's really off base that you're not allowed to talk about, or that is, you know, you kind of get that feeling of pressure about it if you've brought up a topic in a group meeting that everybody kind of slightly gasps, you know, that you brought that up. They get a little edgy about that kind of stuff. Well, thank you, everybody, for sharing. I think that was very helpful. I like that Mark is telling us that they started the open forum about a year ago, and it was started by the administration to cover things that were coming up in events so staff are updated. And I like that it's an open forum because, I mean, obviously that administrator could easily just send everybody a memo about what's coming up. But to actually do it in an open format where people get to ask questions and clarify, maybe you don't know if you're supposed to attend a certain meeting or what those things that are coming up, and does that apply to you, or is that just for a certain audience? And are the scrub techs invited to all the same things, you know, that everybody else comes to? It can be all a little helpful to have that opportunity to meet face-to-face and do some of that clarification. Okay, the next polling question we have for you here is which of these facility staff are currently members of your quality improvement team? And go ahead and check all that apply. And Amy's got the question up.
Sure, yep. We've started the poll now, Tina. Thank you. And we encourage everyone to check all that apply. Let us know who of these options is part of your quality improvement team. And then just as a reminder, please do hit submit so that we can tally your responses. Just take a few more moments as the votes are coming in. All right, Tina, looks like the results are in.
Thank you so much, Amy. So I see there that 35% of you have an administrator and or a manager in your team, which is great. And I like that 29% have an anesthesiologist or CRNA. Circulating nurses, definitely, they're the go-to people. They know a lot about the processes of your facility and where things are and who does what, and they're so knowledgeable. They can have a very important viewpoint to problems you're trying to address. I like that somebody put there, one person did answer the sterile processing tech. I can definitely tell you as an infection preventionist for 8 years when I would be working with a surgical team, and this is in the hospital format, but still it's surgery is surgery and surgeons are surgeons. Very often if we were talking about surgical site infections, those surgeons really honestly believed that any infections that their patients thought were probably because those instruments were not really sterilized, or the package had been damaged, or the packet contents was wet, or whatever different belief systems those surgeons had. They tended to really believe that the instruments were part of the problem. Now, I'm not here to say the instruments are not part of the problem, but that's not the only thing that causes infections. So I really like that that person has a sterile processing tech on the committee. I think that the surgeons sometimes get sort of far removed from who does what to get their instruments ready for the next day or the next procedure. And I think that's an important team-building, trusting relationship to have that person there, because they're able to answer what their process is, what the quality controls are in what they do, that they do visually inspect those instruments when they're putting the kits back together before they go through the sterilizer. You know, a lot of questions can be answered and concerns addressed that people may bring forward about the processing of instruments and other equipment that you use on a day-to-day basis. I like that 24% of you have a surgeon on. I just want to go one step further and ask you, all of those that answered that you have a surgeon on your committee or on your team, are they able to come to your meetings, or do they come maybe every 4th meeting or every 5th meeting? I just didn't have a good handle on are they actively involved in your processes. You want to go back to the chat and just say a bit about that question about, of those that answered that you do have a surgeon on your team, do they attend all meetings or do they come quarterly? How do you really facilitate and value their time? I think it's very important that we express to surgeons that we recognize that their time is extremely important and that we only will involve them in the day-to-day work in a way that is making best use of their time. So if you know your agenda is a bunch of topics that their input is really not, they won't have much input on that topic, you know, it's okay for them to miss that meeting, or for you to actually say, this is our agenda, you know, it doesn't really involve you very much, so if you want to take this meeting off, that's perfectly fine. Obviously, the more time the groups spend together, it can be very helpful for that getting to know one another and building those trusting relationships, which is so crucial for moving forward with the kind of work you're doing. Alice, thank you for answering that you have 2 who regularly attend your quarterly meetings. That's terrific. Go one step further, Alice, and just tell me, or tell us, when they attend quarterly, is it a certain portion of the agenda that's particularly engaging them, or do they sit for the entire meeting with everybody else? Is there anybody on the call today who has a kind of unique approach to engaging the surgeons and valuing their time? Feel free to put that in the chat. The other question I had about this was, how does your facility administration actually support your teams having space in their schedules to be able to have meetings? How often are they held? And I mean, that is a very important way for the facility to walk the talk, right? They're talking about quality, they're talking about safety, they're talking about teamwork, and when they actually put those meetings as a high priority within the organization, that's really the organization leadership telling you that they value what you're doing and that they believe it's important. If they're not doing those things, it may be that we need to go back and engage them a little more and actually truly sit down with them and inform them of what they could do to help you. I think many times I get on teams or I get on committees or I get in meetings and I'm not exactly sure how I can be helpful or what the group invited me for, what they want from me, and any direction or sort of orientation, I guess I'd call it, to what the asks are or what they need, I can come much better prepared. So I would put that out there for you, that when you're engaging physicians in your meetings, to go ahead and be very specific in what you need. The same is true of that administrator. Be very specific in instructing, marketing, and teaching the administration that what you want from them is X, Y, Z. You want them to be talking up the safety and quality at your facility. You want them to be making it part of the culture of your entire organization, that you want their support. And the way they can show their support is by supporting extra time, perhaps, for the data collector or the data entry person. Maybe they get 4 hours of administration time a week built into their schedule or something like that. And I see here that Mark has put in the QAPI meetings are quarterly. They start at 7 o'clock. That kind of sounds like maybe it's before the actual procedures start for the day. The same 4 surgeons, anesthesia, director of nursing, and infection control officer, plus administration and medical records. Wow, that's interesting. I hadn't thought of medical records. That's a great adjunct to your team in being able to collect data and review documentation and optimizing documentation so that when you go back and have to collect that data, that it's actually readily available and you can find it quickly. Great idea, Mark. Thank you for sharing that. That's very helpful. How about the director of nursing? how do you engage the director of nursing at your facility and really teach them what it is you need from them? What are the asks that you're putting out there for that person? Obviously, the director of nursing has great sway over the schedules of the nurses and the time of the meetings and, you know, all the little scheduling and pay meaning you're not doing it at time off. You're actually getting paid for the work you're doing. I think that's something that we should be very clear with the director of nursing that you're dealing with, that's the way they can walk the talk of patient safety and supporting the team's work. Great example. Thank you so much. Slide number 10 talks about making the team functional when reducing infections. So this slide is really there to remind me to articulate again how your learning the teamwork and communication skills have primarily been taught to you in this program with the vision that you're actually standing in the procedure room together, and that's where you have had most of your content be presented, that how you're going to speak to each other in that procedure area, how you're going to speak to each other and communicate safety pieces for patients that you want everyone to know about, such as those allergies or other little new information that you may find when the patient comes that is new or different than the story when you had him in pre-op, meaning his pre-op appointment at the clinic. It's really important that we then take those skills that you've now been practicing in the operating room, bring them out of the operating room into your meeting, and then actually look at how can the team perform the functions of quality improvement, or the team can work together to design goals, rewards, recognition for your employees that are making that really, college try of trying new things and being willing to change. The more you do as a team to reinforce the behaviors that you want to see more of, the more successful you will be. There's something about the human brain that if you notice and recognize, meaning speak to the person, when you see behaviors that are the right behaviors that you want to see more of, when you speak to that person and give them that positive feedback or give them, a candy bar, we sometimes in infection prevention, we use 0 bars, that kind of thing, that we're trying to get to 0 infections. The littlest thing, you'd be so surprised at how that affects the human brain. And we know with human factors, when we're trying to engage employees in changing their status quo or changing long-held beliefs or changing long-held action steps that they've been doing for 30 years, these pieces are so critical. So I really want you to think about engaging in regular feedback. You may need to get together on an ad hoc basis. So if you're having quarterly meetings, is there a format that if something crops up, like say you have a patient who has a really severe infection, and that might be a time when you call your team together in an ad hoc function to come together, between the quarterly meetings and actually sit down and do some investigation or root cause analysis. Maybe you found that you suddenly have a cluster of infections with the same organism. Perhaps it's an antibiotic-resistant organism, and gosh, you're going to jump on that as an ad hoc approach where suddenly a red flag has gone up or some threshold in your data has been breached, and it's time to come together quickly and respond to those warning signs that you have a problem. Occasionally, when the team will come together in that kind of a circumstance, they'll find that there really isn't, as you peel away the layers of the onion and look at the causation of the situation, there may not be those linkages that say, yes, this is a true and customary outbreak, but they're random events. They just seem to, in this case, they just fell close together. And that's really important feedback that then gets back out to all the staff. Yep, the team met. Yep, we investigated that situation of concern, and here are our findings. Here are our recommendations. This is what we're going to do moving forward. so that you can be nimble as a team, that you can respond when you need to respond, but that you have a standing frequency for your general team meetings in which you do your usual and customary business of attending to improving your processes, with the knowledge that then there's this ad hoc feature that you can come together on short notice should there be an issue of concern that really requires you attend to it before waiting for 3 months to go by to your next quarterly meeting. The team is responsible together to make all your approaches and all your reactions to the problems you're dealing with sort of uniform, in that, if you have, let's say you have 10 different surgeons who practice at your facility and one of their patients has a problem, does the approach that you take for that surgeon's issue with that particular patient, does that approach work with all the other physicians or all the other patient populations you're dealing with, or do you need to have it be very customized? Again, this is a teamwork assessment. The team comes together, the team works together to design how they're going to approach investigating a problem, resolving the causes. Perhaps there's systems-based causes that you need the administrator then to come in and help you perhaps remove barriers or facilitate improvements. Maybe they need to increase funding for some new piece of, equipment or a process that's more efficient and effective at preventing the problem you're having. Again, I want you to really focus on it's not the work of the infection preventionist. It's not the work of the director of nursing. It's the work of the team. The team needs to be doing review of the data, review of how many surgical site infections and other never events you've had, how many patients have been admitted to the ER, how many have notified you within 30 days of their procedure that they had to have antibiotics because they had some kind of an infection related to the procedure. All those pieces should be shared, and all should be kept in the know about what the problem is and how it's being addressed. Make sure that your team includes people that can facilitate the change in your center. Do you have those sort of, I'm going to call them the informal leaders? Obviously, the administrator, the director of nursing, and maybe the medical director, they could, in a management format, say, we are now going to do this. This is such and so. This is our process. This is our new change. Versus, you can make a policy, procedure, or protocol and say, well, this is what we're going to do now. And then people never, the actual worker bees never really changed what they've been doing. Even though that's now the facility's policy, procedure, or protocol, the actual reality of what's happening does not match that new policy, procedure, and protocol. You may need to do some observations to make sure that as you implement new policies, procedures, and protocols, that they're actually being practiced by the staff, again, with the goal of having an understanding of what are the barriers to them doing that new process, and also rewarding and recognizing people that are doing it. Sometimes it's just to sit together and say, what did we learn and what can we apply to the next problem? What did we like about how we addressed this issue as a team? Thanking each other for who took the lead. It should never always be the same person. It's nice to share those responsibilities. It's very good for the burnout effect. I mean, if one person has to handle everything, they're going to burn out. So it's very important that you take turns and learn and practice and share as a family, so to speak, as a team, how you're going to continuously make those improvements and facilitate staff trying new and better ways to do things. Does anybody on the call today have an example of a problem that your team may have addressed recently and what you found to work well in that process that you went through? Help me out, guys. Come on. Let's say let's say you had a wrong site surgery. Let's say you're in an ophthalmology center and a patient had a procedure done on the wrong eye. What would the team's response be to that event happening at your facility? And you're absolutely welcome to just type it into chat, or if you'd like to speak openly, you're welcome to do that too. But just give me an example of your current expectations of how your team would respond to one of those reportable outcomes that we consider to be harmful to patients. How about Jolene? Are you still on the line, Jolene? Can you give me an example of how your team might address the event of a patient having a wrong site surgery?
It looks like Jolene might be muted.
Oh, Jolene, if you're muted, go ahead and, how does she unmute, Amy?
There she goes. Looks like Jolene, you can go ahead and talk.
I don't mean to put you on the spot, Jolene. If you don't want to talk, that's fine too. You can just write it into chat. Oh, here we have Alice writing into chat. Had a wrong site surgery, completed root cause analysis, did a video demonstrating the aspects of the universal protocol, and it was mandatory for all employees as a yearly educational opportunity. That's a great example, Alice. When you did your root cause analysis, did the team come together and do that investigation together? Or did everybody take a little piece of it and then you get back together? And how did you work that? You did it as a team. Nice. That's great. I'm so interested in that you made a video. That's so cool. I haven't heard that response before, but that was a great idea. To then make it so that to receive that information and the learning that was derived from that investigation you did, it's easy to roll out a video. Like we're in the YouTube world, right? So you could just have something very simple that people can go to and learn without it having to be a meeting or a class or come together. I like that idea. Alice, could you say just a bit about how your staff responded to the video? Did they verbalize that they liked it, that was a very time-efficient way? Oh, video available on Joint Commission site and the Outpatient Surgery Magazine site. Oh, that's awesome. Amy, will you be able to work with Alice and get those links and we can send them out?
Sure, I'd be happy to.
That would be terrific. I think that would be so helpful, Alice. I really appreciate you sharing that. That was terrific. Anybody else on the line want to say how your team would respond to wrong site surgery? You know, it's amazing to think that this still happens, and it just teaches us every time that we are fallible, we all make mistakes. And it's important for your culture of safety that your staff learn through the way you walk the talk that it isn't a punitive response. You know, when we did the safety surveys on how your staff perceive safety in your facility, we often, in all of our projects, no matter what the healthcare environment, we often hear that they're concerned about a punitive response to errors or mistakes. And so to say to your whole facility, we had this wrong site surgery, and we chose intentionally to make it into a learning opportunity. It wasn't like somebody got fired, which would be the punitive response. It was like we intentionally used this event for a good, that we wouldn't make that same mistake. We investigated if there was a system issue that caused it. And that's so important. I can't stress that enough. You know, if people feel like they're going to be singled out when you make a human error. You know, human errors happen. That's just a given. Obviously, we want to make them rare and unusual circumstances, and then to use them as a learning opportunity is the way that you can express to your staff that you are embracing a learning from defects or a root cause analysis format response to error or response to problem or response to harm. And to say to your staff specifically, this is the way we respond because we don't want that to ever happen again. And we recognize that if we don't look at it and we don't fix whatever we discern was the cause, it is going to happen again. It's going to happen to another patient, and that is not what we want. So we're going to take this opportunity, we're going to sit down together, really do a great investigation of all the related pieces that may have played into this happening, and then we're going to attack those pieces one by one until we design or make a new process or a new system, or we've gotten rid of a bad piece of equipment or whatever we discern was the cause so that it doesn't happen again. Sometimes it's, again, this might be one of those circumstances where despite the best of intentions, somebody checked the box and didn't actually do the action, the behavior that the box was implying would be done. That the site didn't get marked by the surgeon, whatever. You know, it's still going to happen. It's human behavior, and we need to speak with the staff in our facilities that when an event happens and it's a human error, seemed to be a human error, that it will not be, there will not be a punitive response. So we were going to take that opportunity to learn. Now, having said that, when you get into human factors, I'm here to tell you that, you know, you go from the left side of the spectrum is human error, which we all can do. We're distracted, we're rushed. You know, there's multiple reasons why human errors occur. And then the other end of that spectrum is, you know, and you see these in the media sometimes, this, you know, person that intentionally harmed a patient, intentionally gave them an overdose, intentionally, you know, what's that crazy stuff. Now that, yes, that you're going to maybe get that person some psychological help, but you're definitely not going to let them take care of patients. So, and again, I wouldn't consider that necessarily punitive. I would consider that focused on patient safety and getting that person some help. But when in the middle there's this piece in the middle where it's the example I'll use is like you're driving home, it's 3 o'clock in the morning, and you're at a red light. There are no cars anywhere to be seen, and so you make a conscious choice to go against the rule. You assess the rule, you assess the risk, and you made a conscious choice that in this circumstance, on this day, at this time, you were going to just go ahead and go through that red light. So I just want you to recognize that that's the intent of this kind of work. The intent is that we give those staff the understanding that we are learning from defects, that is our customary response to problems and issues, and that the hope is that we can prevent the same thing from happening to another patient. Amy, do you have anything to add to that discussion?
Tina, thank you so much for all of that content, and I appreciate everyone sharing their experiences. I just wanted to add a few reminders for everyone on how to get additional training and help. Of course, just reminding everyone you can always visit our program website at ascsafetyprogram.org, and there you'll find all the information about our future webinars and program resources. And if you do have any questions, you can always email us at the ascsafetyprogram@ahra.org. And also, any data questions can also go to the HRET data support. And we also have your Quality Improvement Advisor, Jeff Durney, which you can reach at the information on your screen there. And then just want to remind everyone of our next office hours, which is going to be Thursday, December 11th at 3 o'clock Eastern, 2 o'clock Central. I want to be respectful to everyone's time, and I want to thank everyone for joining today. I know that everyone has very busy schedules, And Tina, thank you so much for facilitating and giving us more content about teamwork and communication, which is so important to do this work. And I want to thank everyone. Everyone have a wonderful rest of your day. And that concludes today's webinar. Thank you.